Hello everybody, in this video I'm just going to go through some basic overlays with you just so you can see how it works. It's not going to be too in-depth, but I just want to give you a basic understanding of what I do basically and what permaculture does in order to get the right plants on the land and go through all the analyzing stages so basically we can have abundant systems. So here you'll see I'm using the Land app. It's a good platform for designing. It's not specifically for it, so it's not the best. But just to give you an example, I thought it would be great to use it. So if you have a look on the left, we've got background. Now the background is just the white background. Then we've got base map. The base map is what you see here, so just basically the outline of the map. So if I just write in some pointers for you. So here we've got, if I just do a couple more actually, patio, garden, okay, So here we've got the two beds. Yeah. So here we've got the two raised beds. This is the steps. So this garden, this is a real garden. It was a real design. You might have seen it on the social media. And it was done not too long ago. I'm just going to say patio here. Really, they're just slabs. And this is garden. Okay, this is the garden. Okay. So we've got the boundary of the garden here. This is the patio, this is the two raised beds, and these are the steps to go up to the garden. Another thing we should add on the base map is north. So north, I'm just going to put an N for north. So that points to the direction of north, of course. Okay, so now we know that this is it is a south-facing garden, although it's on a bit of a tilt. And it does have a big tree, which apparently the neighbour's cutting down or something like this. So it's an ash tree basically, and it's here. It's text point. So let's just say ash tree. Okay, so you get the picture. So basically, that's our base map, just for an example. There is plants in there already. There's more things in there, but really I just wanted to keep it super simple, just so you understand the concepts, because that's really all I want you to understand in this video. So our first overlay is the sun and shade. So the sun and shade here, we're just working out where the sunny areas are and where the shady areas are. So if I go to area, basically this is all fence, and we've got this ash tree here, which is going to be cut down. But let's just say it's not being cut down, and it's going to stay there. What we're going to have is the sun. So sun rises, yeah, so from the east to the west. So say here. Again, just to keep it super simple. And we'll do one over here as well. Okay. So sunrise. And over here we've got sunset. Now obviously in different parts of the world, in different seasons, you're going to get your sunrise is going to be, in the summer, it'll be rising over here, and it'll be setting over here as well. Just make this clear for you. So it'll be setting over here. And in the winter, the sunrise will be over here, and the sunset will be over here. But just so we just keep it simple, I'm just going to put them both here. It doesn't mean that I'm saying the sun is going to rise at this point and set at this point. It just means that you know that this side is the sunrise and this side is the sunset. So we've got north going down, we've got east to where the sunrise is, south facing is where the ash tree is, and the sunset, which is on the west. So this tells us a lot, basically. And now we're just going to get straight to finding out where the shady areas are going to be and where the sunny areas are going to be. So I think it's fair to say that the fence, it's probably about 1.8 meters high, maybe 2. So that means all across here, the inside of the fence is going to be partially shady. But in the summer, the sun is going to come across the garden like so. But in the winter, we're going to have this ash tree that's going to cover a lot of the garden with shade. So if we just, and again, this is just an estimate, I just kind of want to show you how this system works. Okay. Here we go. So we're going to call this, I'm going to make this black so it's obvious for you to see. And yeah, so this is the shady areas of the garden. So shading. Some people do it, winter sun, summer sun. Some people do it shady areas and more exposed to light. As long as you just get the theory of it, then it doesn't matter what you call it. This is a sunny area. Okay, so it's simple, right? So this sunny area is all the white area, and the shady areas is just the shade. And depending on how big the ash tree is as well and how much coverage we're getting, it could change. Again, I just want you to understand the theory of this, so it's not too exact. And the sunny area, as you can see, it's just, if you look at my mouse, it's just going to be this area here. And of course the two raised beds as well, and I would be inclined to put the shady areas, to extend them where the fences are as well. And also you've got to remember what is around it, other houses that are affecting it, and anything basically that's big and going to block out the sun. So tell you what, one thing I'll just do is I will just put some colour for this sunny area, just so it's obvious. And then when we go to flick through the overlays, we'll be able to see a lot easier. Sunny area. And I'll just extend it, to these raised beds as well. Again, I'm just doing this really quick. I'm just extending the shady areas. Again, this is really just so you understand the concept of what I'm doing, so you can do this to your own garden. Okay, shady area, sunny area. Okay, so that's one overlay complete. That's the sun and shade. So if we go to wind, so the windy area, so right now we don't need this, okay? So that's our sun and shade. This is why it's so good to have it on the internet, by the way, and in a program like this, because you can, quite easily click on and click off of it, okay? So for now, I'm just going to lock that plan, and I'm going to open up the wind overlay. And basically it's just self-explanatory. It's where's the wind coming from. So if we make this a bit clearer. So yeah, I'm just going to make it a little bit clearer just for this example because it is important. Wind will change, obviously, depending on where you are and the orientation of the site, and also what's in front of each direction as well. Fences are obviously a big wind protector, wind barrier. Okay, so there's my makeshift compass. Okay, so let's say that we know, for example, like southwesterly winds can be quite strong in, say, the UK and England, especially where I used to live in Devon. So this site isn't going to have any problem really with wind. But if your site doesn't have any fences and is not enclosed by houses and a community, then you might have an issue with it. So just for this example, this wind direction, and we could also name it as well prominent wind direction, which you could you could look at all the different places of the site, and if, for example, this the west side was, didn't have a barrier here. It didn't have a fence. Say this site didn't have a fence, and maybe it was on the top of the hill. Then you might want to think about putting some sort of windbreak here. See, and that's how we, as a permaculturist and permaculturists in general, that is how we define what we need to do next, because we've identified an issue, we've identified an area which needs help basically, or is vulnerable. And now, after doing these overlays, by using the method of exclusion and thinking about the design of what problems there are, we can then come up with the solutions that we need. So this is all in the analyzing phase. So yeah, I hope that bit makes sense. It's quite self-explanatory. So that's the wind overlay. Now we've done the wind, we can lock the plan and come off of it. And these plans are all available to us, the shade, the sun, and the wind direction as well. The water direction depends upon where your the inclination of your site, so where it's inclined. And for example, this site was quite boggy in the middle, which means it's flat, right? Because the water's not running anywhere. So if we call, just going to do this blue, and yeah, I'm just going to call this a bog. Okay. And this would be something that you would consider in your surveying of a site, right? So let's just say, for example, the water direction is coming through here. And then it runs off, say, this way. Okay. So now I would, what's going through my mind is how can we utilize the water and how can we slow it down? Because water is an element that is really needed for growing plants, obviously. And if you create a site which utilizes water, the rainwater, then you're going to be doing less watering, which means less maintenance, and your plants are going to be a lot healthier. So, yeah, I'm not going to go into how to do it. I'm just going to lock this plan and move on to design lines. So, the design lines is how you move through the site. It can also be animals as well. I am just going to do lines. So we've got the steps here. Obviously, people use the steps. And let's just say, this this client wants to get around the whole perimeter, and that's a typical desire line. Maybe they walk around the area, and also they walk inside it, and maybe, you know, it's just a quick, like something like this, you know. So you see how, like, you know, it's self-explanatory. There's steps there. There's a little patio. Typically, let's just say this client would walk around the perimeter to tend the flowers in the borders, and then there's this kind of cross, because sometimes the client just wants to walk straight to the middle or straight to the other side of the garden, and other times the client gets to the edge, so the left side, and goes straight across the garden as well to the middle. So that's called desire lines. Now, I would normally do more overlays than this as well, but this serves as a good example. So now what we're getting into is called the exclusion method. And this is basically where you put all your overlays together that you've analysed, that you've surveyed from the site, and you can now start choosing your plants, or at least know the type of plants you need. For example, if this was all shade, then obviously I'm not going to pick sun-loving plants, I'm going to pick shade-loving plants. And what we've got here is we've got all the dark bits, obviously the shady area. So, and in this example, there's no windbreaks that are needed. So we can put plants in there that maybe aren't, that maybe don't root down to the ground as well, and they'll still do great. But if there was no windbreak there, then we would have to put one in before we can put, you know, plants that are a bit weaker, or find it more difficult to establish, or do not have long roots basically to ground. Because windbreaks include trees, you know, plants and trees that are strong. Yeah, and what I wanted to show you as well is the kind of boggy area, this kind of boggy area, which is like, it's in the sun as well. So because it's in the sun and we've got a boggy area, that means that there's two things there that we can use in the database, and we can click, you know, we want plants that are boggy and plants that enjoy the sun, and that will come up with exactly the plants that we need. We do have a bit of an issue with the desire lines. You know, maybe the client wants to actually use that boggy space, because, you know, I mean, you could put a pond there, or the decision I took in this was like, it's a small garden. The client is going to want to use the garden, and a pond in the garden is just not going to cut it, because the client wants to be in the garden, you know. So I didn't actually create a pond in this instance. What I did is I put a lot of plants in that were good in that were good at soaking up water, and just putting more plants in general, you're gonna limit the amount of water, because they use water all the time. And then putting in plants that enjoy maybe boggy soils or more damp soils, moist soils, it's really going to help to pull up that moisture and take away the bog when it does rain. Another thing you could do here is, if we just take away some of these, just so it's not confusing. Okay, so we're talking about water right now. Yeah, so one thing we could do here, is you see where the water direction is. We can put something called swales here. Right, so this is this line. And then we can also direct it to wherever we want to go. But let's just put one swale here. So a swale is basically a gully, which is, or a kind of small ditch, which is capturing the water. So the water's running this way, and then we're going to capture it. And then we can direct it wherever we want. And that's one way to solve this kind of bog, because it's all coming from this direction. Do you see what I mean? Okay, now I just want to show you the final design with this. It's going to be too confusing maybe to have all of these on at once. So if we just take off some of them. See, I've just left the desire lines on now. So this is the design I've already done for a client. If you have a look at the desire lines, what I've done there, you'll see the client can go up the steps to the patio, and then they can walk around the whole garden, and they can have the paths that are coming in from the different directions. And there's a seating area in the middle, which is supposedly on this boggy area, basically, or previously boggy area, because now there's going to be paths there. There's also going to be, it's going to be covered in bark, so that's going to be soaking up all the moisture, especially that's coming in from that south angle. And then we've got all these plants here, which weren't there before. It was just grass, so obviously it's going to be boggy. And then we've also got the paths. So one thing you could do with the paths is you could double them up as mini swales, and if it was a really boggy area, you just wanted the water to get off, then maybe it is a good idea just to have the straight line, and then the straight line's coming down so that it comes off. But it is about capturing the water effectively as well. So yeah, that's the desire lines. What we've also got is the sun and the shade, for example. So all of these areas, so this is the shady part, you can see that in black, and then you've got the red area, which is the sunny area. So now all of them plants which love the sun are in the area they need to be in. All of the plants that love the shade are in the areas they need to be in. We've only come to that conclusion because we've done an overlay, because we've done a plan, because we've done our analysis. That's why it's so important to have a permaculture design. It's extremely important. You wouldn't just try and build a car without a plan or a design. You wouldn't try and build a house without a plan and design. So why wouldn't you do an in-depth analysis on your garden so that you can put the right plants in and your garden is going to thrive, basically. So yeah, I think that's about it. If you've got any questions, let me know. But I just wanted to quickly show you what a permaculturist does, basically. And this is just one part of it. This is just the overlay section. It's not to mention, the analysis of the site, the actual surveying of the site, and all the different documents that we go through. And also when we pick the plants, because a big point missing here is, from, what have we got here? 1, 2, 3, 4 overlays, which is not all the overlays that exist. And we've just done 4 overlays, and then we've just got our final design. So there's a big part there that is missing. And yes, but it's all necessary steps to create a thriving ecosystem, which is, self-sufficient, which doesn't use much or any inputs at all from the outside world, which is abundant, is fruitful in flowers, in medicinal plants, in edible plants. And really is just about creating this paradise. It's about creating ecosystems which not only serve our needs, but also serve the land's needs. And if we think about the land as well and the land's needs, then it's also going to serve us, because we're only going to be getting more fertile soils, more abundant systems, more healthier plants, and it all affects each other. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed that video, and yeah, if you have any questions or you want to leave a comment, that would be lovely as well. And yeah, I hope you subscribe, and I hope we continue this permaculture journey together.